You're watching Fox 17 Morning News.
Well, with the kids out of school, many will be spending more time on their electronics. How to keep them busy and avoid too much screen time this summer.
With school out and the kids home for summer, many parents are likely wondering how to keep them busy without resorting to hours of screen time.
You're wondering that, right, Avery?
Oh, every day of my life.
So joining us in studio with tips and tricks on how to do that, we have Dr. Nicole. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so where do we start? Because a lot of frustrated parents are, that is our only tool to get the kids what I feel like to do what we want them to do, is by holding this phone over them and the usage of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that while this is a huge issue for parents throughout the year, especially with summer coming, kids are out of school now. They've got a lot more unstructured time, and parents are going, I know it's not good for my kids to be in front of screens all the time, but I'm not sure how to get them away from the screens. They've become so used to that. And, we know that the average 2 to 5-year-old is spending at least 3.5 hours a day in front of screens.
Right?
And when they get to 8 and older, it increases to 7+ hours a day in front of screens. And I think that that can get even worse in the summer, again, with not being in school. And so talking about how we can help parents to, number one, understand why that's a concern for their kids, and then also some things that they can do about it's really important.
So let's start at the why, because you said even an hour of time, you can already see that shift, right?
Yeah. Well, what the research tells us is that up to an hour of time seems to be a reasonable amount of time for kids. When we get beyond an hour of usage, what we start to see are cognitive and behavioral effects in kids. So things like they're more inattentive, they're more impulsive, hyperactive, more anxious, more irritable. And any of us who are parents who have had our kids in front of maybe a video game or on social media for a lengthy period of time, and you try to pull them from that, and you see that grumpiness in them, right? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So these are real concerns.
Yeah.
These aren't just ideas of like, oh, it's probably not good for kids to be in front of screens. The research is showing us that there are real concerns for kids around this, and so parents are right to be thinking about, gosh, what do I do? What do I do about this? And it's challenging because we're really the first generation of parents raising kids in an era where we're around these devices constantly.
Right.
So there's no playbook for us, right? We can't look to our parents as models for how to handle that because we're really the first ones dealing with it.
My mom can barely turn her phone on.
Right. So, I mean, we could talk forever, but just give some parents real quick some tips and some tools of what they can do.
Absolutely. So one of the first and easiest things to think about is your own modeling as a parent. And this is so important because kids will go by what they see us doing much more than what they hear us saying, right? So if we say to kids, oh, don't be on your devices all the time, you need to put those away, but they see us with our face in our computer, in our phone all the time. So we can be conscientious about modeling that, about putting our devices down when we're talking to our kids, about going for walks, going to the gym, doing things like that without having our devices with us all the time. That modeling is a huge starting point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're running out of time, but we're going to have you for 7:15 too. So we'll get into more of that.
If you have questions, hit us up on Facebook.
Absolutely.
But we'll talk more about some of the things you can do to help that. So thank you for sticking around.
Yes, my pleasure.
All right, guys, 6:50. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.